So as we mentioned, President Trump will depart for the Texas Hill Country a few minutes from now, where he will meet with first responders and the families impacted by last Friday's catastrophic flooding. This comes as Democratic lawmakers are raising concerns about the federal response in the wake of the storm and questioning how the administration's cuts to FEMA and the National Weather Service may impact future disasters. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. And Congressman Moskowitz previously served as Florida's Director of Emergency Management. So I wanted to get your insights. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on not just the response to the catastrophe in Texas, but also the attitudes and changes and cuts toward these federal programs.
Yeah, first, let me say, obviously, the devastation out of Texas is on a level of, heartbreak. You're talking 120 people, 36 kids, and a lot of people are still missing. I mean, this is one of the worst floods in modern time. And so, obviously, our heart breaks for the community that's experienced this. I mean, but at the same time, this is what government is for. Government is supposed to be there in your time of need. Government is supposed to help when there are these major disasters that are over the capacity of local governments. That's what FEMA is for. And the reports coming out that FEMA didn't show up with swiftwater rescue crews for 72 hours is a total deviation from how FEMA worked when I was the Director of Emergency Management in Florida. I would have been woken up by my regional administrator in the middle of the night. By the way, Florida right now doesn't have a regional administrator. That position's empty because they were forced out, along with over 20% of FEMA's workforce. There would have been Black Hawk helicopters that would have been moved by FEMA for search and rescue. They would have had Task Force 1 and Task Force 2 that would have been mobilized within 24 hours on the site. After 72 hours, unfortunately, search and rescue, them showing up then is not as needed at that critical moment.
So you're describing what would have happened had this been under your jurisdiction. How would you describe the response in Texas?
Well, Kristi Noem doesn't know what she's doing. She has no idea what she is doing when it comes to FEMA. Look, FEMA needed reform. The emergency management industry has been saying that for a long period of time. I have a bill with Byron Donalds, who's running for governor of Florida, to take FEMA out of Homeland because we want FEMA to be faster. And Homeland is a giant bureaucracy with 22 other agencies. They're disabusing FEMA, making it do the grants of all the other agencies within Homeland. And so it needed reform, but that's not what the secretary did. What she did is she broke it. Okay, and she broke it on purpose so that when it fails this summer, she can say, oh, see, we told you FEMA doesn't work. But I actually don't think people in the West Wing know how bad FEMA is, know how bad what she's done to FEMA. She's appointed an interim administrator with zero emergency management experience. That was on purpose because she doesn't want anything to happen unless it comes to her desk. She's actually made FEMA slower, less efficient. So much for the E and Doge for what she's done to FEMA. And it's going to cost lives, and it's going to hurt red states more than anybody else. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas, places that have tornadoes. This is not good for states that would go bankrupt without FEMA. And they've slowed down the reimbursement process to the slowest it's ever been. Well, when you slow down reimbursement, you slow down resources. That means cities and counties slow down their decisions because they don't know if they're going to get reimbursed, and they don't have the funds to do major disaster cleanup. So this is a total disaster going into hurricane season. Let's just pray we get lucky and we don't have a bad hurricane season. But if we do, I think you could see a Michael Brown moment.
So, Congressman, you took me exactly where I wanted to take the next line of questioning. Is hurricane season about to arrive? You just listed a lot of states that are traditionally in the path of hurricanes. Of course, Florida, your home state, right there as well. So in the interim, as you've raised a lot of concerns here about FEMA, is there anything that Congress can do right now to try to mitigate what you're saying are the dangerous cuts from the administration?
Oh, Congress could have done a lot of things in the last 8 months on this topic. I've had dozens of conversations with members, and they've been dialoguing with their relationships in Homeland and in the White House. But the secretary has already caused the damage, right? It's easy to break things. It's much harder to fix them. And so they're scrambling now, okay, to try to get FEMA now ready for hurricane season. But there's too many positions that are empty. There's too much experience that has left. And everyone there is afraid to make a decision because they'll get fired, and all the decisions have to go up to the secretary. And so, yeah, what can Speaker Johnson do, being from Louisiana? What can Steve Scalise do, being from Louisiana? They can be making sure they're pushing the White House to get FEMA ready, to get those declarations fast, to do pre-landfall declarations. That's what we're used to when a hurricane is coming 3-4 days before. They do a pre-landfall declaration, which allows them to move logistics. It allows the locals to know they're getting reimbursed. It allows you to pre-position resources in the field, ice, water, power generation. It allows you to do all of those things. FEMA needs to go to the playbook that they know and works in hurricane season. So those members should talk up publicly and shouldn't be afraid, because if we do get a bad hurricane season, it's going to come to their districts. There are more Republican districts that are exposed to hurricanes than Democratic districts.
Yeah, I was actually in coastal South Carolina last weekend as a tropical storm moved in. It ended up being not a big deal, but there was a sense of a few residents I talked to bracing themselves as to what the months ahead may hold. Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida, thank you so much for joining us this morning.